Hello, welcome to this week's podcast. Today we're going to be going over the Q&A, just answering people's questions and giving them advice and all that type of stuff. So here are the members. We got Stefan, Jonathan, Poet, Rebecca, Josh, Stu, and Kay. Say hello, guys.
Hey, what's up?
Hello, guys.
Hey, guys.
Hola.
This first question comes from Shirley M. Is it weird that I really want to have a child? And she says, I'm over the age of 18. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm no woman, but, you know, I think... I'm sorry, please, I'm not disappointed, but you know, I think all women... I think all women have kind of an innate desire to have children. You know, I think it's just a natural thing. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's natural. It's either you want children or you don't, and you're over 18. You know, so what's the big issue? I mean, obviously, I think we'd all advise you that you wait a little longer and find a guy and settle down and whatever. I think we'd all agree with you. You know, we'd all agree on that, but it's not a big issue. Just, you know, wait on it a little bit.
I agree that, you know, you should make sure that you have the resources to, you know, care for your own child. And I mean, you're going to have to go on leave and all that. So you should, you know, make sure that it's all going to be okay. But otherwise, why would it be weird to wish to continue the propagation of our species? I mean, it's the reason we're all here is because somebody decided that they wanted to have a kid. Or maybe not, but I think for the most part, it's the former. It's really the only person that can make that decision is the person asking the question.
Actually, I'd like to make it for her and suggest she have no children anytime soon, for the simple fact that if you're over 18 and you have to wonder why, as a female, you desire to bear children, you probably aren't ready to explain to a child anything about life.
Very eugenically sound, Poet.
I mean, that's why I said you should wait it out a little bit, you know. Don't go rushing into like a decision. It's a weird comparison, but it's like getting a tattoo. It's like you gotta really want it before you decide to do it.
Like a tattoo.
Sure, that kind of is.
Well, it's something you're not going to get rid of unless you're willing to pay a little bit of money for a laser surgery.
How does paying money for laser surgery get rid of kids?
See, you're not thinking very creatively right now, and I'm a little disappointed.
You made the comparison.
I mean, you can't throw yourself down some stairs to get rid of a tattoo, but...
Okay, so long.
Seriously, though, to the person that asked this question, wait it out. You know, wait until you feel as though you're ready for it and you feel as though you can do the job. You know, find the right guy that will support you during this. You know, get a good financial income.
Basically, you want to set yourself up for success.
Can we get
for raising a child?
Perspective?
Yeah, that'd be really refreshing right
Please.
now.
Somebody who's a mother,
Yes.
please. Go on.
As a first-time mother, even though I've always wanted my own family and my daughter was actually planned, you aren't going to be as prepared and ready for it as you think you will. It's a lot harder than you think from just like reading books or, you know, doing all this research. There's going to be times where you are going to rip your hair out and it's going to drive you crazy. But it's completely natural to want a child, and, you know, even if you're prepared for it, it's still going to be like a slap in the face of reality.
It's just something that you can't learn. It's something that you experience
Exactly.
and learn and grow with it.
And you also learn a lot of appreciation for other parents, too. And you have such a deep love for your child that they will never know how much you love them until they have their own children.
You are 18 years old. There is absolutely nothing weird about wanting to have a kid at your age, because it's just this little thing that recurs every now and then called baby fever. It's very common. You just hit a point where all of a sudden you have this burning desire to have a kid. You walk around, you see other people interacting with their children, having such a great time, or seeing, or being fulfilled, or even being frustrated, and you just start to long for that. You long for the connection, you long for the bond, and it's absolutely natural. You're at the sexual peak of your life. You're at the point where your reproductive system is basically going into overdrive, and you're at the best possible physical point to have children. It's a biological imperative. So, no, there is literally nothing weird about wanting to have a child at 18.
I mean, I think something that I want to bring up as well is that here in the UK, and a lot of people that I know from school, they've been pregnant, and they're like, you know, someone that I've known from school has just had their second kid at 18 or 19. So,
oh wow,
I think in this modern generation where people are, you know, having kids at such a young age, and, you know, you see that, and, you know, I guess you do kind of want it, you know, you see something, you want it. So I think that's another part of it that you've got to take into account, maybe.
I agree, but at the same time, you don't want to be reacting just to the emotion. You want to sort of balance it out with reason as much as possible. So,
exactly.
What about the host? Like, do you have any more thoughts on the matter? You were kind of a little vague.
Vague.
A little vague.
Well, I was just kind of, I guess, supporting what they were saying. Like, I think that, you know, if you have, you know, the resources, you have the person who you want to have a baby with, and you really feel like that's something you want to take on, you know, then I guess it would be encouraged. But also keep in mind, if you're like, let's just say 18 or 19, you're also really young. Like, you have a lot of life to live. And when you have a child, wouldn't that basically, I mean, all your attention has to go to the child, in a sense, to take care of him, and your life isn't really necessarily yours anymore. So you gotta ask yourself, is that something you really want to give up? You know, your own personal life?
You have to be ready to give up a lot.
And when you're that young, your brain isn't fully developed yet. I mean, the prefrontal cortex finishes developing at age 25. You might want to just wait it out and wait for your own development to be complete before you decide to create another human being.
I think what we're trying to say is don't rush into it. You know, you have all the time in the world to think about this and do all the stuff that you want to do in life for yourself before you sacrifice that time towards your child. So, yeah, do all that stuff and live life. YOLO.
Josh, I think you and everyone else has made really good points, and it's great to hear a male perspective on this as well. But just from my perspective, I have been married 2 years, and I've done things like nannying. Obviously, like I said last week, I'm a teacher. I've been at mum's, and even those situations have not prepared me for having kids. Like, even looking after my own nieces and nephews has not prepared me for having kids. Because, like Kay said before, there's only so much that you can learn from theory, and then you've got to be able to learn practically as well. So there's even times, like I said, I've been married 2 years, and there's even times now when I think I'm ready for kids, but other times I look at people who have kids and I'm like, yeah, totally not ready for kids yet. So I think it's something that you really need to, like Kay said, be ready for, and be ready for your life to totally change.
That's a good point, Rebecca.
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
I totally agree with that.
Another thing that you have to take into account is when you're raising kids, a lot of people make the mistake of viewing kids as property instead of as another human being. You know, you see it all the time. You see someone get upset and their first response is, well, this is my kid. And while that's literally true, it's not the whole story. You are raising another human being, and to put a finer point on it, you are teaching another human being how to be a human being. It sounds like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised about how many people don't think of it that way. How well do you understand your own actions, your own impulses, the reasons you do the things that you do? If your answer is anything but, I understand myself fairly well, then you're going to have that much of a harder time explaining things to another individual who doesn't have anywhere near the level of understanding about life that you do. You're teaching them everything, from how to feel, how to think, how to hold something in their hand, to how to fall in love. It's a big job.
I wholeheartedly agree. And let me tell you firsthand that there is nothing in the world that will prepare you for the sight of live childbirth.
Not live childbirth, but if you ever watched in high school, they'll show you a video called "The Miracle of Life," and that'll kind of give you an idea. Anyway,
we don't have that in the UK.
I've seen a live childbirth.
I've seen it as well, and
I personally wasn't as.
In the UK, we have the rumors of the playground. Yeah, it's a brutal place.
Ooh.
All right, so let's go on to another question. What do you guys have?
All right.
Well, I was just looking through them, and the first one I found that kind of stuck out to me because I took a class on this sort of thing was the question was, my husband doesn't want to make love. And basically they're newlyweds, but the husband is not driven and just seems to have no desire to perform and seems to even lack the ability to perform. And this woman is wondering what to do about it.
She wants to pay attention to is he showing any sexual interest in anything? Because if she catches him watching porn or talking to his buddies about how attracted another woman is or something, then that it's a bit more personal, and the issue is his perspective on her. But if he's just not doing anything at all, then that's probably a medical issue.
Did you guys notice that she did respond as an answer?
She said that she's not sure if it's ED. In fact, I think she said it could be, but she doesn't think.
But she said that he was very much interested in the beginning.
Right.
Interested.
Which means that interest is gone in some way. Which is never a really fun thing to deal with.
I think it's all well and good us throwing up possibilities to why this is happening. But
okay. Well,
I think the only thing that this person can really do is talk to the guy. You're newlyweds, but you're married. You can talk about this shit. It's not like you're a new couple and you're still in the feeling out process. You're married. Yeah. You love each other. This is something that you experience.
Thank you, Josh. I was going to say something along the same lines. Being married, so far in our marriage, we have realised that communication is one of the most important things in the relationship. And if there isn't communication, everything else falls apart. So, from one married person to the person asking this question, I would say just talk to your husband, if at all possible, and just figure out what's going on for him and let him know what's going on for you.
He might even be ashamed of it, though, right? Oh my, I've forgotten your name there temporarily. Rebecca?
Yes,
no.
Possibly.
That's not your name either.
It is Rebecca, but I guess it's hard for us to know what's going on for them. I guess that would be my suggestion. That's what I would hope would happen in our marriage. But I know the realities of that are also a lot harder than just saying it.
Mm-hmm. I know if I got married to a woman and I couldn't bring myself to, fulfill my matrimonial duties, I would feel very ashamed.
I mean, the other thing that we got to consider is that this is probably weighing on the guy's head too. He's
definitely
probably just thinking about this 24/7.
And you know what'll kill a boner? Anxiety.
Exactly. I mean, I haven't been there. Because I'm great in bed, but it's.
No, man, that happens to me.
Sorry, this is a thing that he's also thinking about. You've got to take that in consideration, and it'll be awkward. Of course, it'll be awkward. You know, whenever something like this comes up in relationships, it will be awkward. But once it's over and the air's cleared and you both know what's going on and how you both feel, and you can start to rebuild on that, you will both feel much better and really get back on track with what you want to do.
And maybe not only is communication also good for that, but if it's something that has to do with ED, then or performance anxiety, then why not take a break and get more, I guess, comfortable with each other a little bit more, and just kind of focus more on like foreplay or anything along the lines of that, so that way you guys can just become intimate, but you don't have to like have any, I guess, pressure to or anxiety to perform or anything like that. Just make it more relaxed.
I think it's kind of hard to respond to this question in a meaningful way without getting to the root cause. I mean, because like you guys said, it can be either emotional or it can be a physical thing. So without kind of narrowing that down, it's just very, it's hard to offer good advice, I think.
You had a good point, Stefan.
There's not a lot of details there as to whether they're trying and it's just not happening, or they're not trying at all. And it sounded like, from what she said, that he's not even trying. So that I don't know, that kind of makes me lean towards that it's something much more personal, and like already mentioned, they just need to talk.
So if anything that we can conclude from this is basically try to establish more communication and try to find the root cause of the problem, and then try to figure out a solution from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I would recommend.
All right, Jonathan, go ahead.
Yes. This one is entitled Need Advice, very serious, and it was posted by one Love to Love. Her username is @InLoveWithLove. And she says, I met someone here on this site and they became Skype friends. They chatted a lot for a very short period of time, but out of nowhere they were told that they were planning on ending their life, and that was the last time they would ever speak. Despite all of her efforts, she couldn't talk him out of it. He sent her a message that it was the last thing she was going to hear from him, and it has been. And she says, just like that, gone. I'm worried, sick, and feel helpless. I feel like throwing up, and I can't stop crying because I don't know what if anything, there is that I can do. Please, someone reply. I'm feeling very alone and helpless.
Wow, I actually did see that earlier, and it's a pretty powerful post. I mean,
yeah.
Imagine talking to somebody who is apparently suicidal, and then they just literally leave you while you're trying to comfort them. I mean, it kind of seems like it would make the person who's trying to help them feel somewhat, in a sense, responsible, in a sense, but...
I think the first thing we should clear up here is that the person who asked this question, you are not in any way responsible in case something has happened. He mentioned how much it's meant to him, you talking to him, so by no means feel responsible for this. If something has happened, of course.
Here, here.
I chose this topic because I have actually had the same experience. I was chatting with someone who ended up ending their life while we were in a chat. I found out about that later from one of their friends. So, how do you explain to someone how to feel after knowing that there's a very strong chance that someone just ended their life in the middle of a conversation? And the best thing that I can tell them is just keep breathing. Life comes, life goes. It's never easy. It doesn't get easier. All you can really do is keep living your life. If you happen to hear from them again, then you have every reason to feel elated. But for the time being, just set it aside. Go get a hot shower. Do whatever you have to take your mind off of it, because there is literally nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the unfortunate things about the site, is there are people who do experience that, but also keep this in mind, is there are people, who may or may not actually be real on that type of thing. And that's one thing we don't know. Did they just
You're
come on?
referring to trolls who like go online and say, "Oh, I'm going to kill myself just to make other people feel happy." Oh, I feel unhappy. Those are.
I know,
those-
it's terrible.
There
Those
are
are-
trolls on this site, and that's a terrible thing. You know, that's why the flagging thing is on the site. You know, we can block people now on the site.
Yes.
But there are also people there that, you know, they just want some attention, you know, and they say, look, oh, I'm going to kill myself. And then you talk to them and try and talk them out of it. And, you know, maybe it's just a cry for attention. I know that sounds terrible, and that's normally what a lot of people accuse people that are suicidal of, and people say that they're going to commit suicide is what they accuse them of. But, you know, just keep that in mind as well, that maybe they just wanted some attention.
Yes.
It's a good point, Josh. Here's one thing I just want to say to anyone that's tuning in is that if you come on this site, or if you go on any site really, and you talk to somebody about you potentially being suicidal, then you better damn well be serious about it, because if you leave somebody or ditch somebody like in a certain circumstance that you were just faking it, that's so wrong, because, you know, that ultimately devastates the other person who is on the other side, you know what I mean? Because most people who are on the site have a heart, and they want to try to help other people. And so, if you honestly want to do that, then don't, because that's just an absolutely cruel thing to do. But for the person on here, if they really are serious about that, and you can't control it, then it's unfortunate. But you know, you need to move on, because there's nothing really you can do.
I totally agree with that, Jim.
Yeah.
That's like the boy who cried wolf kind of thing.
I mean, yeah, just in the... Sorry,
It's
Steph.
sickening. It's sickening for people to do that, though, because there
Well,
are
yeah.
people who do that.
I mean, just going off what Jim said, I mean, if you are on blah therapy, then, you know, you'll know that 95% of the people on this site have either been through or are going through a depression of some kind, you know, anxiety, self-harm issues, you know, and, you know, almost an uncountable number of things. And if you tell someone that you're going to kill yourself and then stop talking to them, that's going to affect them a lot. And it does. You know, even people who just stop talking to you for no reason, you know, maybe suicide didn't even come up in the conversation, and they've just left the conversation. You know, that affects people too. Because, like, oh, well, you know, this person doesn't like me either. I guess no one likes me. You know, there's always that thing.
Yes, you have to keep in mind, anyone who goes onto a peer counseling website that is solely populated by people who have problems and are looking for a place to talk about them, to basically victimize someone else or try to get attention for themselves, the act of selfishness is just mind-boggling. Stay away from blah therapy if all you're going to do is troll. Because everyone here has some kind of a problem that they're looking for advice or looking to possibly resolve by themselves. And this just is not the place.
But then, I'm sorry, I have to interject a little bit here just to play devil's advocate. Then where do sociopathic people go for help?
They go to either Tumblr or 4chan.
Oh boy. Can I comment really quick?
Meatspit.com.
Just before we go too far in one direction, let's just remember it is about the person asking the question, and particularly how they're feeling.
Yes.
And just to that person, I would say that whether this person, you know, did what they claimed they would do or not, whether they were real or not, doesn't change the fact that you took time out of your life to be there for someone else. And that matters way more than the results of the time you took for that person.
Fantastic point, Poet.
You know, the fact that we have people out there that they could be doing anything with their life, and they're choosing to come to this site and listen and befriend people and try to be there for them, that's what matters most. I mean, who knows what actually happened to this individual, but I can guarantee you that whether their life it doesn't so much matter that if their life was cut short. It mattered that they got to meet someone like you, interact with someone like you to know that maybe life isn't as awful as they, started to feel like.
I think one thing the entire podcast would agree on is that the person who this person was speaking to, the person who Love to Love was speaking to, if you are still out there and you are listening, and you are on the site, then please get in contact with her because she's freaking out about you.
And also, we need to also redirect people who are suicidal to a licensed therapist. So, for the sake of the site, we would also recommend you talk to somebody either in person or even online, if possible. So that way, you can get help from somebody who is basically certified, to help people like you who are in need of professional help.
And just some advice to Love as well, the person who asked the question. This person really meant a lot to you. So keep your chin up,
Let's go on to another question, because we can always come back to that.
So this one was posted by Elvish Thing to Do. She says, why would I not want a relationship? She's an 18-year-old girl, and she's never been in a relationship. She's had advances from guys, and she's had offers, and she has started texting them and messaging them to almost the point of leading them on. And then when they ask her out, her automatic reaction is to just run away. And she says that, she's confused whether she's just too scared or if this is a normal thing.
I kind of, even though this is a girl asking it, I kind of want a girl's perspective on this. So what, Kay or Rebecca, what do you think?
I think... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Kay.
No, you go ahead.
Thank you.
Cat fight!
I think just wait until she is ready, because if you're not ready for a relationship, then what is the point of being in the relationship, if that makes any sense? And if it's anything to do with anxieties or anything else, then maybe talk to a professional and see if there's a way to get around your anxiety. That would be my opinion.
I don't think that it's so important that you go searching for a relationship, especially if you don't feel ready. Because, if you look too hard, you're never going to find the right person, and you kind of just have to let it happen naturally. So it's not something she should be too worried about right now. She's 18, and frankly, going to go through a lot of relationships. It's pretty rare that you find one person and that's like your soulmate for life. So it could be anxiety, but I have a friend who's like that, and she's like 23 now or 24, and she's focusing on school and traveling, and she's had offers as well, but she's not totally worried about being in a relationship because she's focusing on herself, and that's what makes her happy.
You got a great point there, Kay. The age factor is something to really play into. You're young. You got your whole life ahead of you at this point. You have so much to go on, whether it be, college, studies, just general life experience, jobs, working, becoming financially independent, getting your own home. There's so many responsibilities we have as adults, but, ultimately you're kind of grown up and discovering who you are. So I think that's a good thing that you're kind of abstaining from that, in a sense, because that's kind of, allowing you more time to discover who you are and ultimately make you a better partner for someone later on down the road.
I agree, and I think another important question that should be asked is, when you're seeking a relationship, have you had the experience of friendship with someone of the opposite gender first? And if the answer to that question is no, then perhaps you should just look for friendship first, and once you're comfortable with that, then you should move on to the harder question of relationship.
Yes, well said.
I think we've all experienced kind of love and liking someone and wanting to be in a relationship, and I think we can all agree that you just know when you like someone and you want to date them. It's just a feeling that you have that you just know, and maybe you just haven't had that feeling yet.
That's a good point, Josh. But for one sec, I'm gonna be devil's advocate for a sec. A lot of guys nowadays want friends that are girls, right? but ultimately there's kind of a thing where the girls don't know if the guys want them for more than a friend. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No, it makes sense what you're saying.
It totally makes sense because that is a common thing. You know, you see it all the time. Like, well, I see it all the time at university. You know, if you go on a night out, then you will see, like, almost in the thousands of drunken girls being, you know, carried away by almost as drunk guys.
holy crap.
It's the UK is an insane place, guys. And that's university life, but it's you know, it's a common thing, and I think that kind of trust issue is, you know, it's completely justified for the female gender. But then again, you know, you just know. I that's the thing I'm just going to keep reiterating, that you kind of just know that you want to be with someone, because that's the kind of theme that I'm getting here, is that she just hasn't felt like she wants a relationship yet.
I don't disagree with you, Josh, but isn't there a process that does involve a little bit of reason and evidence too that should go with that?
Yeah, completely. Of course there is.
I mean,
you know, and there's so many factors that you've got to take into account.
I mean, because just that feeling that you just know, it has to be based more on lust. I mean, you actually have to know the person to just know, you know?
Yeah, I mean, of course you can just know, but, you know, do you like the guy? Do you see yourself with him in a few years? You know, there's a lot of factors that you've got to take into account.
Yeah.
Because long-lasting relationships aren't just based off of infatuation, you know, they're based off of shared interests, trust, respect, all that type of stuff, you know what I mean?
An understanding. They're usually based on an understanding.
That as well.
All right, I think I'll take my turn. It's not uncommon for anyone of any age to get the relationship jitters. It's all part of the process of getting to know each other as human beings, because there's a lot to learn about each other. You just talk to someone who has social anxiety, and they can point out everything that they're nervous about when it comes to the getting to know you process. And it really puts it into perspective of the magnitude of the degree to which you have to get to know people. And when it comes to a relationship that goes beyond friendship, it goes beyond shared interest. It goes beyond happy feelings and dirty deeds, you know? It becomes a matter of, you get to know this person as intimately as you know yourself. You know their mind, and you know their heart. You know how they feel, why they feel the way they do. You can almost predict one another, and that's really the kind of depth of a relationship that is required for a truly lasting relationship. You can't just get to know each other at face value and then think, well, hey, I like having sex with this person and we don't fight all the time. That's not a basis for romance.
Or a long-lasting relationship.
Precisely.
I totally agree with that, Jonathan. I mean, I think you have to be able to love a person for their faults as well as for their attributes. And so if you don't even know a person's faults, that means you haven't taken the time to know them well enough. And if you're just liking them for their attributes, so you really have to have a complete picture before you can make such a important decision of declaring your love for someone.
It's so awfully heard in relationships by young people. I got to know this person and everything was great, and then all of a sudden, after we moved in together, everything changed. You know, it's such a common story, and it's because in a relationship, the very first thing that people do is, after the nervousness, after the communication starts, they put their best foot forward. You see the absolute best of someone before you see their flaws, because they don't let you see their flaws. Not until they get comfortable, and not until they feel safe enough to open up and allow you to see their shortcomings. And it can be very disenchanting. And you have to be ready for that. And that's why you have to spend more time with people a great deal more time, years even, before matters like marriage are considered. It is true that marriages do happen off of short relationships, and many of those are successful marriages.
I think Rebecca, she mentioned a great quote to me yesterday, and I can't remember it exactly. So if you could kind of refresh my memory, Rebecca?
Yeah, sure, Stephen. When I was dating my husband, one of the mentors in our life at the time reminded us of a quote, and I can't remember who it's by, but it's about not marrying the person that you can live with, but marrying the person you can't live without. And I just thought that was a really powerful quote, especially after Jonathan had just been talking about marriage and stuff. I know dating is totally different to marriage, but yeah.
Wonderful quote. Wonderful. If she takes the whole process too seriously, I just feel like we're going in that direction with the true love and such. When really, she just needs to give someone a shot, and that gives her a shot. Because if she just keeps looking for that feeling, like, I don't know where she's going to get the idea of this feeling, if it's Disney movies or MTV, but eventually you just got to put yourself in the position so that you have some experience, because she can put herself in a type of corner where when she actually meets a guy she really likes and wants to give all the opportunity to, she may not have anything to offer him because she's kept herself in this shell. And that's a lot of people run into that wall, I've noticed, where you actually find someone you like a lot and you could be with them forever, but you're not ready at that point in your life, and you can risk losing out on them forever because no one wants to wait for you either, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with Poet that sometimes you just got to throw yourself in the deep end. I'm going to speak from personal experience here that I have a girlfriend that lives in the US and I live in the UK. And I didn't know if I could handle that because trust issues, I have that thing, and I knew that it would be really hard to kind of just cope with that. But I just went, you know what, I really like this girl, so let's do it, let's try it, and I've never been happier.
It really does. That's a good point, Josh. It really does come to a point where you just have to basically Leroy Jenkins the relationship, and.
Oh, I love the reference. Leroy.
Nobody ever accidentally and timidly bumped into happiness. All right? At some point, you have to put yourself out there, and you have to deliberately reach out, because nothing is just going to fall into your lap. You can't just flirt with the idea of a relationship. At some point, you have to go for it and and as I believe it was Stu said a minute ago, he said you have to get that experience.
And one big issue, and this is a really generational problem, is a lot of the youth today, they don't get so desperate to put themselves out there, because even the girls, when it used to be just boys, even the girls are hooked on porn. And if you're getting your release from some other option and you don't have to risk putting yourself against another human being and them ridicule you and you suck and bad or something, you don't do it because you have this fucking computer to give you all your pleasures, and it's kind of totally changing how we interact in this fucking planet. It's madness. I don't know how we're cool with it.
Yeah, Poe. What you're saying is convenience is getting in the way of experience.
Yes, exactly.
Let me tell you something. I got a really great way to kind of prove that. Over in, I believe it's either Japan or China. I think it was in Japan. I believe for the most part.
I know what you're talking
Yes.
about, and it's in Japan.
Yes.
Are you about to refer to Hikikomori?
No, I'm referring to the pornography industry over there. Literally, if you go over there and ask any single woman that isn't married, they're gonna tell you, "Oh, I don't want him in. I don't want him in." It's shocking.
What?
But it goes so much further than that. There's an entire industry built on this, that it even goes so far as that they have cuddling cafes, and this is a serious thing.
Yes.
Where men can go
It's crazy.
to a cuddling cafe, and
I want to
they
go
can
to
have
the
a
cafe.
and they can cuddle, and they can have a coffee, and basically they just kind of like rent out a little bed or whatever in a room, and a nice girl comes up to you and just has a cuddle with you.
I would personally find that very awkward. I mean, you're laying next to some girl you don't even know. You're paying her to lay next to you, and you're just sitting there, kind of just staring deeply into each other's eyes, and
It's so weird.
BRB, guys, I'm going to Japan.
Oh,
you're basically paying for people's companionship or friendship.
They don't do anything. They just
No.
cuddle.
No, that's all they do.
A cuddle
What
cafe,
the
guys,
fuck?
come on!
That's
And these are
awkward.
men. These are men.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
not
estimate the population
really-
in Japan is going to half in the next 20 years or something. Because
That's not really all that different.
in relationships.
Totally sorry there, but that sort of thing, it's not really all that different from a stripper or a prostitute when you think about it. I mean, what you're paying for is an illusion. You're paying for the illusion of someone who, is attracted to you and likes you or anything like that, and wants to be intimate with you. I mean that is a step closer. I agree. That's a little weird.
Here's the
But-
big difference. You're paying for the illusion that this chick is not a stripper or a prostitute. But these guys fully understand that they're paying for cuddling. They're not getting anything else because it's like a very direct transaction. With the other two,
Well, poet, maybe they're not getting what they think they're getting, but for a tip, I'm fairly certain that the young ladies would be more than willing to share something they're actually interested in.
Tip for tip.
But see, that doesn't seem all that surprising to me when I look at it from an economics perspective and consider the way in which Japan is a hyper-capitalist society, even more so than the United States in some aspects.
Oh God, no kidding.
And so it doesn't seem surprising to monetize even the act of companionship. I mean, it's basically just an extension of capitalism if you think about it.
I say next week's topic should be on capitalism itself because I can rant about that for an hour by
boy.
myself.
I say it should be on Japanese cuddle cafes and how we need more in the UK. I'm going to open my own cuddle cafe in my little flat in Sheffield where I live.
Do we?
Women or men, I don't discriminate, can come into my room and we can have a cuddle for an hour.
Josh, is it required to cuddle just with you? Because
I do it.
Well,
what the hell?
if you want more, you're going to have to pay extra.
You're a
I'm
redhead,
not
right?
cheap, Jonathan. I'm not cheap.
So it's
And
not
or
being
should
counted
be.
as plugging you in.
But I will be worth every penny.
And what exactly would you charge? I'm actually kind of curious.
What?
Okay, we are not going to discuss cuddle prostitution.
Like,
Hey, it's
what
not
would
prostitution. Don't insult him. This is a real job.
Prostitution's
curious,
a
what
real
would be
job.
someone's
Yeah, I
rate
know.
for
I
that?
know. I was just trying to sound like a goof.
In the Vice documentary that I just linked to everybody, they negotiate a price. So it's up for negotiation.
Yeah, I'd like a number 2, but for an
Oh,
extended duration.
You want a spoon with a little bit of junk tickling.
Yes. The spoon with junk
Oh my
tickling, a little bit of soulful conversation with a side of bonding, temporary bonding, of course, because I'm not coming back.
Would you like a side of staring deeply into each other's eyes?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Yes.
so change the subject. now.
Please, let's
No, I'd
let's
like to
do.
Change the subject.
Stay on the
Get out of
subject.
hand.
I actually have a question that kind of relates to that question. Was it you that mentioned it, Josh? I can't remember.
Yes, it was.
So a question that I found on Blah is, and I'd be really interested for your opinion in this, guys. How do I talk to a guy? So there's this girl, Hayley, who pretty much wants to know how to talk to a guy. She has known him for 2 years at school, and they have one class together and they sit right next to each other. But she doesn't know how to talk to him. She likes him, but she thinks it might be weird that she will all of a sudden start talking to a guy she has known for 2 years.
You know what? My first girlfriend, we started dating at the very end of high school, and it turns out that we both had huge crushes on one another like halfway through high school, but I just couldn't pluck up the courage to ask her. So, I mean, as far as talking to boys go, there's a pretty good chance that the boy is just as anxious about talking to you. I mean, I can only speak from personal experience there.
There is a lot of pressure on the guy to make the first move.
Exactly.
So it's an unwritten rule that the guy asks out the girl and, you know, all that sort of thing. But you know what? Just go up and talk to him and say, hey, kind of like you. You know, see where things lead.
That's Ford. Let me give you one of my own personal experiences. For example, like, my first girlfriend was, fortunately, lasted only about a week, but this was back in middle school, and I saw this girl who I thought was, okay, why not? I mean, you know what I mean? So I went.
Why not?
Being the
Jim.
Being the young person that I was, immature, I was just like, I saw her basically by a locker, right? She was having a hard time opening her locker. I'm like, yeah, I know how to open locks really well, so I'm like, here. And that's kind of like,
yeah, I can open doors.
you know what I mean? Because she's having a hard time with the locker combination, I suppose. So, but you know what I mean? Like, try to find something that you can do. Like, if you see an opportunity to talk to this guy, then great. Because, you know, sometimes it may or may not happen if a guy is too nervous to talk to you, perhaps. I don't know.
Well, they do sit next to each other in one class, Jim. So, I guess, how would she start up a conversation with him?
Perhaps by talking about the subject at hand.
That could be a good start.
You know what I think is the best thing to do? Is you go in not looking to, you know, like, oh my god, I'm going to date this guy. You go in just looking to meet someone new and find out about them. So, I mean, maybe ask, I mean, if it's high school, you're picking classes, probably. It's like you said, asking about that subject. Why are you interested in this subject? Oh, what do you think of this subject? You want to... The best way to get to know someone is to ask them about their hopes and dreams. For example, if I wanted to get to know Josh, I'd be like, hey, Josh, what is it exactly about staring soulfully in other people's eyes for money that, you know, wakes you up in the morning?
Okay. For the sake of this, let's go on to another subject, please.
So, I just want to say, you know, if you're trying to find like a good conversation starter, then find a common interest with the guy. You know, the best friendships start with common interests. You know, find out if you like the same band. Find out if you like doing the same hobbies or whatever. You know, just find that common interest, and then getting to know the person and talking to them, and you know, getting into something more than friendship will be a lot easier.
Can I say that? She can say anything. She can talk about rainbows or frogs. Guys aren't picky, especially in the teenage years. We don't care what you say. We're just amazed that this girl is talking to us. So
yes.
Take that as power. You have power over men.
It's kind of a sad reality, but it's true.
I'll comment on this one before we move on. Part of the problem is at such a young age, young people tend to put each other up on some kind of a pedestal. You know, they view other human beings unrealistically, and you have to. Everyone eventually learns this, but you have to get to a point where you bring other people off of that pedestal. You start viewing them the same way you would view yourself. They're a human being, just like you, and just like you. They have their own hopes, dreams, likes, dislikes, frustrations, things they're nervous about, insecurities. There are a great deal of things for people to talk about. It's just a matter of viewing this other human being as the human being that they are, and beginning to relate to one another. In the end, you find out that relationships, well, at least starting a conversation, isn't that hard. It's just getting over that initial hump of fear. And that pretty much covers it.
Because fear ultimately gets in the way of what we really want in life, you know what I mean?
Yes, and it's also another thing that gets in the way is it's the fear of rejection that stops so many people from talking to one another. And that is such a useless fear. It stops so many people from making so many friendships that I tell just about anyone who I get into a conversation with about the fear of rejection that if you feel a sense of that you might be rejected, look at it for what it is. Yes or no. I want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. Once you actually get that answer, it narrows things down so much that it actually makes things easier to cope with. Because then you don't have a what if. You have a okay, they don't want to talk to me, or okay, they want to talk to me. Let's go.
I have a question for Jonathan. So,
yes.
Because he mentioned that fear. What if your fear of rejection is not that the other person rejected you, but that you failed to, I don't know, accomplish some goal of getting them to like you? How do you deal with that issue? I know we have Q&A questions, but I kind of have my own Q&A question. Because I get angry at people who, like, you're annoyed by me or you don't like me. Like, you know yourself? You know, it's like, not saying like huge ego, but I think I'm a cool person to hang out with. And when someone's like not interested, or it makes me think less of them.
So what you're saying, you're talking about putting yourself out there and then being rejected when you were the one saying, "Hey, let's talk."
Yeah, and then instead of, I guess, the natural way of feeling, oh, people don't like me, it turns around and I go, you know what, I don't like people.
Okay, instead of feeling upset that you were rejected, you feel insulted.
Yes, and that seems really bad because.
Yeah. And I have a technique that I use when I got rejected all the time. It was
really?
Yeah, dude. But basically, whenever I got rejected, I always thought, you know what, you're not gonna spend time on me or want to be with me, then why should I waste my time on you? And that's the mentality that I've always kind of kept.
You'd be surprised at how much I actually support that mentality. To a certain degree. There is a healthy level of both detachment and arrogance that people can comfortably adopt, because those two emotions can, in the case of detachment, the lack of emotion, or in the case of arrogance, a strong emotion. Those two things can go a long way towards protecting you from harmful emotions like depression or suicidal thoughts. If you hold yourself in higher regard and you say, well, you're going to treat me like this? Go fuck yourself. It's actually a fine defense mechanism. You have to have a certain enough certainty of yourself to be able to tell someone else, yeah, well, you know what, you can go do with yourself. While at the same time being able to objectively view your own emotions and think, wow, this really upset me. But you know what? I came out here to have a good time tonight, and I'm not going to let this bring me down. Let's just take a deep breath, shake it off, and hey, there's someone who can talk to. Keep going.
Yeah, it's basically that mentality of, well, you don't want to be with me? Well, I'm awesome. Why wouldn't you? Well, fine. You're going to regret it.
I like the way this guy thinks.
And I'm going to prove you wrong. And yeah, exactly. You're the guy. So
I am the character.
Boy, you are the guy.
All right, so we've kind of done kind of mild to serious, kind of mild. I think we should go back to a more serious topic.
No more mentioning of cuddling Catherine.
Yeah. All right, so there was this one post, and it kind of really caught my interest because it actually revolved around suicide. It was from this guy named LG China Dragon, and this is a question. Please give me 10 reasons to live. He goes on saying, well, he feels like he's lost the war and all that type of stuff, and he dislikes his parents because of his past, and he doesn't have siblings, and his grades are failing. So I'll contribute that to last. But what would you guys give as a suggestion for this guy to live? What do you think he should consider?
I think a lot of us have been there. If you don't mind my assuming, I think a lot of people, especially here, have been there. And I can say that you may not have many reasons to live, but there's no good reason to die. Not when like I've also held true that as long as you are breathing, there is hope that things will get better. And you know what? If you give up, that's fine. Like the philosopher Seneca in Rome, he believed that living or dying well was better than living ill, and that's fine. But for all we know, there's only one shot, right? I mean, maybe there's a heaven. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there's a heaven. Maybe there's a hell. Maybe there's great afterlife in the sky. Maybe there's anything like that. But what if there's not? I mean, are you really going to throw it out? Are you gonna? Are you just going to throw all that away just because you're scared things won't get better?
I just want to tell a little bit of a personal story here about maybe, I don't know, about 5 or 6 months ago. I was in the exact same position as this guy. I was really depressed, suicidal, and I actually tried to do it. You know, I tried to OD, and it failed. Obviously, I'm still here. And I just had this really bad mentality. And then, like, after I failed, I was like, you know, I'm just going to get myself out of this rut, and I'm just going to try and do something about it. And then from then on, I got into university. I met my girlfriend. I'm on a podcast with a bunch of people from all around the world. I've made new friends. I'm in a band. You know, all these amazing things have happened to me in the past couple of months, and it's because I didn't follow through with it. So my advice to this guy is, don't give up hope. I know it's a generic response, but you know, it does get better. You know, and I'm a living example of it.
As long as you keep breathing.
Ultimately, I don't think you have to have any hope. You don't have to, you know, have anything to hold on to want to live other than curiosity. Because this idea of taking your own life, like, I'm not even sure we have that power. I mean, we have this assumption that if I end the flesh in this state, that I somehow cease to exist, that I don't go somewhere else where the pain continues or is magnifying. We have no proof of this. The only thing you can do is live to answer all these questions that come before that ultimate one of what comes next. And that's going to happen anyway. So why rush it over, you know, the agonies of today, which is most of it is so superficial. Your grades, monetary. Every day I think to myself, if I had a rough day at work or there's some stress with a bill or a person, I always think to myself, I have the option to get up and walk out the door. No money, nothing. I can just get up and walk, and no one could stop me. No one could do anything. People can say, oh, you're an idiot, you know, you just left all this stuff behind. But you always have that option to stop playing this game of life where sometimes the artificial constructs of our society start to weigh us down and, you know, feel like our spirit's being broken. But you have all the choices in the world. So right now, if you feel like you want to stop playing, well, you're missing out on a lot just to get a early preview of more pain possibility. Who knows? That's just my only reason for not agreeing with suicide is you're going to die anyway. So why not just live it out while you're here? And if that means playing the game, you know, do that. Sorry, go ahead, Kate.
I actually know him a little bit. We used to talk some months back, and you probably don't know me by this name if you happen to listen to this, but it's me, Spiffy Koji, from the past.
I'll
And
send him a message. saying-
and it really kind of crushed me to hear that you're feeling that low. And you know, I know that you're pretty young and you're extremely talented, and I know you don't have much control over your life right now because your parents are pretty strict from what I remember, but you will become an adult one day and you will be able to control your future, and you have so many talents. You have like a really wide variety for careers that you can just get out there and make life amazing for yourself. And I know it's hard right now, but you know, you're going to be an adult soon, and I know you can make it.
Well,
Yeah,
that's absolutely fantastic, for you to say, to give them that advice, Kay.
Very well
I mean-
put. Yep.
Just going off what Kay said, do what makes you happy, dude. Just go out there and, live your life for you. No one else. Don't try and impress your parents. Don't do what they want you to do. Do what you want to do. Make yourself happy. And then you'll find that your life has, it'll be a lot better. And you'll find those reasons to, keep going when you've had a bad day.
I have one thing that I put on the website about a year ago. It got a little bit of heat from someone on the website who is not on the website anymore, and I'm very glad of that because I believe she was spreading misinformation. And anyway, I won't name names. Well, I posted this demotivational thing from 4chan, but I thought it was really inspirational. Oddly enough, you think that everything that comes out of there is toxic, but it's this spoke to me. Over the last summer, I was incredibly just down, and the quote reads, "Understand that this is someone who doesn't quite understand all this, so the language is a little crass, but the idea of it is something that's pretty cool." And it reads, "I never got why people would kill themselves. So if you want to die, you obviously don't give a shit, about anyone. Because if there is anyone who loves you, you don't care. Or maybe there's no one that loves you. So instead of killing yourself, why don't you just leave? Leave the basement, leave your house, leave the country, go on an adventure, spend your time doing something awesome, like tracking down some terrorists. Go be James Bond. Go fuck up a shark with a harpoon. Danger? Screw danger. You were going up against a 100% death rate. Now you're being safe. Everything is up for grabs. The world is literally, literally, your oyster. Sometimes I wish I was suicidal. I'd pull the barrel out of my mouth, point it in the air, start a revolution, move to Barcelona, hit the bars, bang some chicks, STDs. Who cares? I almost died. And then maybe when I'm done, I wouldn't want to kill myself because I've seen how beautiful this world really is." And obviously there is not a little bit, but a fair amount of insensitivity in that kind of post. I really like it personally.
Yeah.
No, it's wonderful.
That demotivational thing is very blunt. I think we can all agree on that. But the message it comes across with is, I think we can all agree with it that, no matter how hard it gets, just get out there and live life. You could potentially be missing out on so much, and you will if you do whatever you want to do. So, just get out there and, start an adventure and fight a tiger.
That sort of reminds me about this movie I saw a few years ago called Into the Wild. I don't know if you guys
that's
saw
such
it.
a fantastic movie.
I
Kind
thought
of
it was
depressing.
the way it ends is depressing, but initially it's inspiring.
A little bit of reiteration from what I posted to his post, and it kind of sums up, I think, what everyone's trying to say, is that suicide, isn't, really a good solution, because it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Situation is temporary, and you have many new life experiences and things that you will have in the future that await you. You know, one thing he mentions is friends that they've left him and he's lost connection to them. Well, friends come and go throughout our lives. You know, it's an unfortunate reality, but they do it for many reasons, and most of the time it's not just your fault in particular. You know, you prevent people that you will meet in the future of happiness. You know, kind of like I met somebody on LiveBlah and I've talked to them for a little while, and they become a really good friend. And I mean, she almost committed suicide a long time ago, and it's really sad, but she almost did. But if she had died, she wouldn't have met me, and I would have met her. You know what I mean? And it's really cool because we really established a really cool friendship over that. You know, because you never know who you're going to meet in your future. You know what I mean? And you can really make a difference in others' lives, but you have to be alive to do that.
Yeah, it was literally the day, like 2 days later after I'd OD'd, I met my girlfriend.
See what I mean? Like that. Like you just never know what life's going to hand
So,
you.
yeah, and, you know, I've never been happier, you know. She makes my day every single day, you know. Love you, Cher.
Love you, Cher.
Shay. That's what she's called. I hope she listens to this. Hi, if you are.
And like he mentions his grades and all that, like you can improve your grades, man. Like you can do pretty much whatever you set your mind to. You just gotta put in the effort, you know, because what you put into something is what, you know, you will get out of it.
Yeah, when it comes to academics, that is one thing that I will say. I just don't buy the whole some people can't learn certain things. When it comes to, you know, especially in math, something as absolute as that, you study it enough, practice, and you have no choice but your brain to become automatic about it and for you to be better at it. They say that's like the one major difference when it comes to Americans in their academic studies and foreigners, is that most other countries have a better idea of patience being okay, while here in America everything's about speed.
It's like,
and,
it's like quantity over quality.
Yeah, patience is like very, you know, it's a key, you know, to learning anything. What are you going to do without it?
Patience is the key to life.
Is it?
Here's the thing. For this guy, there's a couple more things I want to say. Is that you will ultimately have a purpose that's bigger that you know within not only your current situation, and also if you kill yourself, in a sense, you basically have given up and failed at life. I hate to say that, but you have. The only way you can give up, the only way you can fail at something is to give it up. And you know, how do you think like professional athletes got to where they were today? You know, they made mistakes, allowed themselves to make mistakes, but they didn't allow themselves to give up in the process. You know?
Yeah, life, you know, you will go through life making mistakes, but that is life. You make mistakes. It's how you build on those mistakes that define you and improves you as a person.
What's really interesting is that we all get in this position usually as a result of letting the perspective of anybody else, whether it's like society's rules or another person, we let their idea of us own us. Yet we get to this stage where we decide to take ownership back by ending our life, when the idea is kind of confusing me, because at some point you lived your whole life letting other people own you. Now you suddenly think you own yourself when you don't want to play anymore. In reality, they still own you and have the right to your life and get to ridicule you, so you can't kill yourself. And that sounds rude and mean, and I don't mean it to be so, but it's just a very contradicting thing to put yourself through, you know?
I guess you could say that control that you want from taking your own life, apply that to, you know, improving your life, you know?
No, that's a very nice way of saying it.
If you want control of your life, then take control of your life. Do what you want to do, you know? And I did that. Look at me, I'm sitting at like 4:30 in the morning talking to a bunch of Americans and New Zealanders.
What a girlfriend.
And Canadians.
And
I was just going to say,
Sorry.
And New Yorkians and Oregonians and
Dude, I named everybody. Shut up.
whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna end this thing with the quote, so you guys keep on going. You're done.
I just want to pitch in here. I know I've been very quiet. I've been listening and trying to concentrate. So the person who needs help, I'm not in the exact same position, but I have had friends in that position. I have had other challenges in my life, and during those times, right when I felt like giving up, when I felt like it's all just not worth it, that's when the breakthrough has happened, and that's when, like Josh was saying, that's when things have got so much better. So, like everyone else has been saying, just hang in there, keep going, and it will get better.
Is there anything you guys want to cover? Anything else? I mean, we can still go on if you guys still want
Yeah. As stated, it says, "Would it be offensive for me to take up American Sign Language?" It's by a guy calls himself Blake. His username is @Juniper, and it just says, well, I'll sum it up because it's a bit lengthy. He wants to learn American Sign Language. He thinks it's interesting. He would like to communicate that way with deaf people.
to. First question is why would that be offensive if you're trying to learn a new, like in a sense, a new language?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
like,
not offensive. I promise you, man. You go for it.
unless you have any bad intentions to use American Sign Language. Then
Yeah. If you're gonna
Alright,
tell
I think you're okay, dude.
like
The only time that sign language has ever failed as a use was the fake sign language guy who was at
Obama.
Nelson Mandela's.
Nelson Mandela's funeral.
Oh, Jesus
Right, that is the only time that sign language has failed, and that guy was not a signer. So
What happened? I never heard of that.
at Nelson Mandela's funeral, it was crashed by a guy who faked being a sign language expert. He stood beside the world leaders, less than a foot away, signing nonsense as they gave their speeches about the departed.
Was that Sacha Baron
And
Cohen?
no, it was not Sacha Baron Cohen.
That would be kind of funny actually if it was. But
That would have been
Way
priceless.
too funny.
But no, as for Blake, go ahead. Learn American Sign Language. You'll enjoy it. Anyone you sign with will also enjoy speaking with you. So go for it. Have fun.
it would only be, I guess, offensive if you used it to say like cuss words or whatever. If you try to cuss people out in sign language, if you used, you know what I mean? Like, it's just.
I don't think it's offensive at all. I think, again, from a teacher's perspective, it's actually something really inspirational because you're trying to reach out to others who can't necessarily communicate the same way as everybody else.
And it would actually be very meaningful to signers to know that someone who is perfectly capable of speech chooses to learn the way they speak to one another. A side note, actually, do you know how people who are both blind and deaf communicate?
How do they?
They have someone who attends on them at all times. And much like in the Miracle Worker, they take their hand and they sign things to them with their own hand to communicate back and forth.
Oh wow, I never knew that.
Well, kind of goes back to Helen Keller, if I remember right.
Yes.
Is that the same movie I'm thinking of, or is that?
Yes, it is.
Oh my God.
I believe the title of the movie was The Miracle Worker.
Okay, so the guy's called Blake, right? So Blake, do what you want, man. It's not offensive. Just don't use it. Just don't be a douche with it. Is basically what we're trying to say. You know, you'll make friends in the class. You know, it'll be an experience and it'll be fun. So go for it.
Alright, so we have reached the end of this podcast for this week. Thank you for the participants for participating, and thank you for the listeners for tuning in. I'm going to leave you guys with a quote that I pretty much live by, and it's a really motivational one. So until next week, we'll see you then.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you wanna be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.